How well do you know the meta comps of set 10? Are you truly in tune with these comps that you can recognize them just by their music? There's just over 1.1k of us in this little community I've been cooking. Thank you, by the way. And I just want to see which one of you does the best at this quiz. At least one of you can beat it, right? Basically, I'll play some music from a comp and all you have to do is guess the comp. But there's a point system. In the top left corner there'll be a number which represents the number of active traits like pentakill or jazz in that song. You get 1 point for each correct trait, then you get 2 points for getting the right comp. The music will play for a bit, there's a countdown, and then I'll swoop back in and tell you the answers. Not bad, huh? Make sure you comment your results so we can find out if you're truly a flex player or just like a Asante reroll one trick.
Smelling good, going in.
Okay, so we started off easy with that one, and of course that is Disco and Hyperpop. And both of these traits heavily enable Dazzler Twisted Fate so we can deal loads of damage. And in the meantime, units like Blitz and Alawi are going to live forever in the frontline because of the Disco Sustain. This comp is a staple in set 10 with its really distinct music and those disco balls. While this comp is slightly on the weaker side, it's still a comp many players default to. But with that being said, let's get into the next question. And the answer to this one is Punk and Emo. This board is centered around carries like Twitch and Vex, and frontliners like Pantheon and Dumumu. Now, while there are a lot of variations to a Punk comp, I think this one is by far the best. And that's because this comp by far has the most value. You have units like Vi, Thresh, Amumu, and Vex providing really good CC, you have armor reduction through Vi and Yorick, and you have 4 Guardian active so your backline has plenty of time to deal their damage. But now it's time for the next question. So the first trait in this one is pretty obvious, that being pentakill, but if you paid attention to the drums then you could hear a slight tinge of KDA. So of course this is vertical pentakill with the lethal combo that is Akali Karthus. Units having synergy like Akali and Karthus is quite rare in TFT, but it's something I'd like to see more of because it's very cool and very fun to play around. That aside, this comp is pretty ideal conditions for Karthus. There's plenty of time to scale, there's backline access, and there's damage amp. But what's that? You ready for the next question? Yeah, this one's another one where you have to pay close attention to those drums. Obviously the foreground is obvious, that being country, but the background isn't that obvious. But the answer to this one is Country Emo. I personally find this comp very difficult to play because it's so item dependent. Mira particularly feels really useless if she doesn't have Infinity Edge. But I am expecting this comp to be stronger next patch, especially with the country changes and the introduction of new portals. Even though Hecarim is getting nerfed, I do hope to see more nerfs to country as a whole. But let's move on to the next question. See, that was tough, right? The answer to this one is this Jazz KDA board centered around MF, Bard, and Echo. This border is great because it has a little bit of everything. It has damage amp, damage reduction, superfan utility, CC, shielding, healing, extra HP, and so on. If you haven't tried this comp out yet, I recommend you do because it's really fun. But I think now I'll take it up a notch and make this quiz even more difficult. The next few questions won't be for any comps you're familiar with, they're completely unique. So with that in mind, there'll no longer be any points for getting the right comp. Now you'll only get points for getting the right traits. Now I'll be the first to admit that this next part is very difficult. So as a hint, I'll say make sure you keep an ear out for the drums. But with that sorted, let's get into it. Oh, that was tough. That was tough. So the answer to that one is Maestro, Country, Pentakill, and Disco. Maestro was obvious, Pentakill was obvious, but Country was hidden under both of them. But this one was particularly tricky because there exists no comp where you play Disco, Jin, Pentakill, and Country. It just doesn't exist. So these next few questions will keep you on your toes because you actually have to listen and you can't rely on your memory of having played the comp before. So I'll make this next one a little bit easier for you. Okay, so for this one, KDA and 8-bit are pretty obvious, but what's really hard to notice are the drums, which are punk. This one is why I mentioned to listen and pay close attention to the drums because that's so difficult to notice. But what I will say is 8-bit and punk go so well together. It's such a shame that there's not much overlap between these traits, and so no punk 8-bit comps actually exist, at least for now. But before I start overcooking, let's move on to the next question. That's probably a safer bet. So the answer to that one was 8-bit, KDA, and Heartsteel. But one thing I will say about Heartsteel is that it's so difficult to make it sound well with any of the other traits. Every time I try it, it sounds like I'm using a cheese grater on a solidified fart. It does not sound good. But that's probably just me, right? I don't know, I just don't think Heartsteel sounds that good as a trait. I think it doesn't have anything on traits like Disco or whatever, but before I start ranting, let's move on, yeah? And that's it. That was the final question. So, did you get it? Obviously there's Disco. Honestly, I think it's a crime you don't hear Disco often enough in other comps. God, it just sounds so good, man. I love Disco so much. You know what? I want to end the video on a banger, so let me throw in another trait. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. That was so good. Oh, I loved it. I loved it. But yeah, the answer to that one was KDA, Pentakill, Disco, and Punk. So if you got it, damn, you're good at the quiz. But this time the quiz is actually over. So out of the 35 points, well, how many did you get? Make sure you let me know in the comments. And whilst you're down there, let me know if you want more content like this. I definitely think that this video is one of the more innovative videos I've ever made. And that's thanks to this website, which allowed me to pick and choose which traits I wanted to listen to and mix them together. So thank you, Shane, for making this website. It was really fun to play around with it. But yeah, my next video on the plans is Gnar reroll. My last stream was about that. But I don't think it'll be anytime soon because I will be busy in the next few days. This time I'm actually in the kitchen, you know, cooking food for Christmas. Surely I'll pop up in the kitchen considering how good I am at cooking comps in TFT, right? Surely. But yeah, I'm cooking this Christmas, so wish me luck. Hopefully I don't poison her. But of course, make sure you enjoy Christmas with your families as well. I'll be back after Christmas and I'll drop the Gnar reroll guide at some point as well. Regardless, Merry Christmas. I'll catch you guys in a bit.